So our next guest, Mickey Sanchez, has been building community among professors around questions of religion and science. And I think he's learned some things that apply to all of us. Mickey's not able to be here with us in person today. So I am going to open up, share screen here and share a video of him. And I think you'll really enjoy learning from Mickey. He's a really smart and thoughtful person who is just great at crafting communities. And he does that really well in person and online. I'll just make this full screen. I'm guessing many of the people here today feel a longing for a place where they can ask the big questions about life and explore them with an intellectual community. Mickey, you and I are part of a project that brings professors together to explore big questions, the Roundtable on Science and Religion. And I see this project as a model that can help us all imagine and grow intellectual community in our own lives. So I wanted to interview you about it. Before we delve into the questions, let me describe the project a little more. The Roundtable on Science and Religion is a project that brings faculty together to hear scholars in science and religion, enjoy the hospitality of a great meal, and explore big questions with a small group of colleagues around their table. Now the project is multi-site, and you lead the Roundtable at Northwestern, while I lead the one in Ithaca. Since both of our sites launched during the pandemic, we have been running digital dinner parties as a collaboration of multiple project sites. And I've been truly amazed by the deep longing to connect in this kind of community, with many of the events drawing over 500 people around the country, even in a moment when professors are extremely busy managing new COVID protocols and different modes of teaching. And as we dive into the questions, one thing I love about your work on the roundtables is how you adapted the format of the dinner party and extended welcome and hospitality in an online format. Can you share some ideas about how to craft a sense of hospitality in a digital setting?
Sure. Thanks for asking, Hannah. It was kind of thinking what aspects of hospitality can we transfer over? Like what is hospitality? And it occurred to me that part of that is on the one hand, making people feel welcome, helping them to feel at home in an environment that's new to them, strange to them potentially. Whenever you're invited to something, it's important to kind of know who's inviting you. So we had about 9 faculty co-hosts and a chaplain or 2 actually from the university. So that it's not just me kind of out of nowhere inviting people, it's a community of people who are inviting others into their relationship, into their curiosity and discussion. And then I think another thing would be giving people a sense that this is not a sterile place, a place that is just static. You can come in and shape things as you like. So if you attend or if you're considering coming and you have any kind of feedback, feel free to give it. This is something that we're crafting for you. So if you want to shape it, go ahead. Mi casa es tu casa. Feel free to move the furniture, do as you like. And we did get a lot of good feedback. And so that has helped us continue to shape things better. Yeah, and one other bit is our presenters who are up front, because that's part of our event is we have people have a conversation up front. So we want them to model the sorts of conversations that we want people to have. So we encourage our presenters to have like a friendly rapport, talking about things that aren't just like purely intellectual, but also somewhat personal, like how does their view of the world impact what we're talking about as we ask these really big questions. And so far it seems to be working.
That's wonderful. I really love the way you've thought through some of the things that make a great event in person and how that translates to the digital model. So it's great to hear how you've adapted some of those ideas. Another thing that really stands out to me is how you supported participants to ask really big questions about the nature of the human mind, about how we think about the idea of God, and other really deep explorations of what it means to be human in our world. What do you think is especially helpful in making space for curiosity and intellectual exploration in an online event?
Good question. So I suspect, hospitality is the sort of thing that you kind of absorb through osmosis by the atmosphere that's set. And similarly, I think curiosity is the sort of thing that can be contagious. So when we approach these things, we kind of ask what is it that makes us curious? What is it that we want to explore intellectually? If you're really interested in something, like if you throw a party about a particular in a particular style, like an 80s party or something, there will be others who enjoy that kind of thing who will want to show up. Not everybody, but a good number. And so that's what we did. We just said what is curious to us, what fascinates us. And we also asked our presenters to do the same when they're talking, like, feel free to like explore this in front of us in real time, right? And ask us questions, like, what are questions that you still have about this area that, and not, our presenters, of course, are specialists, and they could ask very specific questions that are beyond what any of us could do. But there are broader questions that they're also wondering that the specific things kind of latch onto. So help to share some of those passions and stuff. And so when we write our questions for our breakout room conversations, as the coordinators, we have our kind of curiosity spilling out. Like, these are questions that are important to us, but we also crowdsource and ask our presenters, like, what is it that you are curious about, or what do you think something would be engaging for folks who are at a lay level, right? Who are not in, say, neuroscience, but in English or in chemistry. And so I think you pull together all that curiosity, all that sort of interest, and there'll be lots of people who are then interested in those sorts of things.
I love the way too that you really drawn on the very specific knowledge and skill set of the presenters, and also help them translate that into a language that scholars in other fields will appreciate, or the thoughtful general listener could appreciate. And that seems like a really wonderful aspect of the project. I'm sure it really enables wonderful conversations in the small group settings, as I've experienced myself in some of the ones that you've organized and I've attended.
That reminds me about one other thing. So we're kind of hopefully sharing this curiosity. But another bit to this is reminding folks to have intellectual humility as they come in, because that is like the flip side of curiosity. If you're not humble about what you know, then it's hard to be curious, right? So that's another way of kind of saying this. And our very first roundtable together was on intellectual humility. So we have that video on our website. And in my emails, I'll remind people, that's a sort of starter. Let's come into this curious about what is it that we're blind to, right? Whenever I enter, as a Christian minister, whenever I enter secular spaces, I'll say, hey, I would love to know where I'm wrong. And even that includes the deepest parts of my belief system. Like, I would like my beliefs, all of them, to track with truth as best as I can, right? And so if you can help me out here, please do. So in doing that, I think we hope to encourage others, like, okay, yeah, maybe not 100% of what we believe is true. Let's again, crowdsource or just kind of engage together, and hopefully together we'll get clearer on what we think is the case, and that'll help us in life.
Oh, I really love that point. And, one of the really key values of Passion Talks is humble dialogue. So this is a really good model for us to think about. So for those here today who are themselves building community around ideas, working with scholars or other learning communities, what insights would you share about building a sense of connection, specifically in intellectual communities?
Right. So I think connection is often built over like a shared experience, right? I love the Lord. It's an overused probably example, but the Lord of the Rings, right? You have that Fellowship of the Ring. They're dwarves and elves don't get together, and humans, and some of them are like, you're not so happy with each other, but their shared experience helps to bring them together. Now it's a very extreme experience, but thinking through how can we cultivate this shared experience for our guests that will give them a common sort of culture in a way, and a common set of experiences that will help them to relate to each other as they move forward. So, and interestingly, on our feedback surveys, we've had like over 100 faculty express desire to continue the conversations that we began at these roundtables in discussion groups, small discussion groups ongoing. And I can't remember the number, but a significant number also want to do one-on-one coffees with other faculty and such. And so it seems like somehow this is tapping a felt need for people to be able to connect. And they just need like this bit of space to do it. And the shared experience that we provide help to like, okay, we're on the same page here, right?
That's wonderful. And, that's something I think about a lot as a way that faith communities can genuinely support the common good of everyone, whatever their worldview or expectations about life, is just making space for these big scale conversations that, they may have some wonderful results in terms of research and things like that over time, but they're also sort of for their own sake. And so it's great to hear how well that's working. As you imagine your work going forward, what elements of digital community building might you take into the future as hopefully in-person meetings do become more possible? How do you see the online community building you've done already translating into those communal conversations that people are expressing a longing for?
It's helpful to keep an aspect of this. And we're still exploring it. I think all of our different sites will be experimenting with different models. But for our site, which is sort of a digital native, I've heard faculty reach out proactively to me who aren't on our co-chair team. They're just other faculty guests who come, please stay virtual, because it's easier for me to come, and it's probably cheaper for your budget. And if we wanted to bring in big name speakers, it's easier to Zoom them in, and we can all kind of benefit from that versus scheduling a flight and all this stuff. When we do go in person, though, the thought is that a lot of faculty have enjoyed this kind of, we're matchmaking in a way for discussions and across disciplines, across worldviews, and to be able to provide that pathway, sort of lower the activation energy for people to engage, is a huge value add. I've had so many faculty on their reviews say, thank you for this. It's making our experience of the university much more communal and positive, especially in a time when we could have been more isolated thanks to COVID, so keeping those connections, because even if folks are in person, their busyness is already an isolating thing. That was already an issue before. So if we can use technology to make it easier to connect, sort of to matchmake, that'd be great. So we might be, we're partnering with another organization, the Veritas Forum, to experiment with an app that might connect faculty one-on-one for coffee. And if we do in-person events, I think we will also do it hybrid, so that there can be a virtual component for folks who want to be part of that conversation but can't be present on campus. So that'll be an experiment that we'll try and see how it works.
Oh, it's really exciting to hear how some hybrid ideas about building community have come out of this very difficult time that, certainly we all wish we could have skipped the difficulty of the pandemic. And yet it's wonderful to see, as somebody put it, a small silver lining in terms of the innovation we're discovering in different ways to nurture community and grow it, even in tough circumstances. So it's great to hear some of your ongoing ideas for innovation there. I guess we'll close with this final question for the moment. This specific project has huge potential impact on ideas and on the communities that shape them. And of course, it's also for a highly specific community of scholars. For those looking to build community around ideas in other settings, what lessons translate, and what would be a good first step they could take towards having more community around ideas in their own day-to-day lives?
So I think the hospitality thing is pretty important, and so making sure that you think creatively about the group that you're trying to cultivate the conversation, and ideally identifying some folks who can help you think about what hospitality will look like in that situation. So if you put together this team of what we call co-chairs, but call co-hosts, that will go a long way to helping you set that sort of conversational environment that you want, and frame exactly what sorts of things you want to talk about, and then just continue to invite people into that. I'm reminded of the tech talk that Derek, I think Sivers, gave on how to start a movement, where he showed a video of a man dancing on a hill somewhere outside, maybe a concert or a festival, and he's just dancing in some odd way by himself, but and it could be embarrassing. He's starting it out, but once a second person comes, that starts changing it from a lone person to like, oh, people are like, oh, this is not just odd. You're giving others sort of permission to join. It's something that maybe they would have wanted to join, but they didn't want to be alone in doing that. And then what the main point is, the early adopters are really important. Not even the first person gets it started, but who are your early adopters? And they can be the ones that really help the conversation go just from yourself and maybe a couple others to more of a wider group, because of their relational networks and also the sort of legitimacy, but more like, hey, this is okay, this is fun, you should try it. And in the video, eventually it's sort of like, well, if you're not trying it, you're missing out, right? So ideally, that those co-hosts are kind of that for you. So I would say that is a very important first step. And it's easy when trying to set up something from scratch to let fear kind of get in the way. When you're hosting, if you're relaxed and comfortable in the space, it makes others feel relaxed, right? Just as curiosity is contagious, fear can be contagious too. And it's a sad thing. But if you can, and some of this means like just rolling with the punches, allowing things, because things do go wrong, right? And it's okay. Things will, but what people are there for are the relationships. And if you kind of focus on that, and again, right, with Lord of the Rings, things went very wrong in so many ways, but they were there together, right? And so if you make that your goal, and everything else is kind of like great, icing on top or cherry on top, then that will help others to feel comfortable in that space. So just have fun. It's a fun thing to do. And if you're having fun, if you're just kind of exploring the world, others will want to do that, because you're starting the work for them and then inviting them, hey, join me in this. And they're like, sure.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Mickey. And I just encourage all of our listeners to think of one person you can start that conversation with about beginning to build a community around ideas. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, we're delighted to hear from Mickey. And if you want to learn more about his work, he is an InterVarsity graduate and faculty minister at Northwestern and leads the Northwestern Roundtable on Science and Religion. So you can connect with him elsewhere.